Let's talk more about Joe Biden because he has some regrets. Wishes he had done some things differently. Now that he is on the doorstep of walking out of the White House, he's looking back and saying, hey, what could I have done differently? And the main thing seems to be he wishes he would have stayed in the race. He thinks he could have won with some of the reports over the weekend.
Stayed in the race.
Somewhat delusional that he thinks he could have won. Because, I mean, he did give us all this evidence when he took the stage in that debate against Donald Trump.
That $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. If they just paid 24% or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
that was the moment that Trump won that debate because we were all kind of feeling this. Where's he going with this? What is he saying? What is Biden trying to communicate? But he just wasn't coherent. And I remember after this debate, the gap widening just exponentially between Trump and Biden, who was set to win the presidency, right? Or who was leading in the polls. Trump took a big win after this debate. So Biden, the idea that if he would have stayed in, would have won. I mean, maybe if he would have had a tremendous second debate performance, maybe he could have made that argument, but he didn't even get there. His party didn't want to support him because they were seeing things behind the scenes where they said, we don't trust him to have a better second debate than the first.
That was the moment. And look, the struggling, the losing his train of thought, and then we finally beat Medicare, very, very strange thing. And the problem that just comes back to mind, guys, is we were told, leading up to that moment, aggressively, indignantly, that man was not only perfectly fine in that moment, right. He was suited and ready to go for 4
The amount of media
years.
gaslighting.
That's what they told us, right? In control, sharp as a tack, all of that nonsense. And then the lie, which was clearly a lie to many of us for quite some time, totally disintegrated over a span of about 20 or 25 minutes on that debate stage. That's why I think, Joe Biden's sort of an ornery guy in some respects. He's very proud. I'm sure he does believe that he could have stayed in the race and not been forced out and could have won. But
I just got to say this really quick. The leftist media, or the left-dominant media, has turned the average left-wing person into a master gaslighter. The amount of people on the right that were saying 4 years, I don't think Biden should be president because he does not seem like he is cognitively able. The amount of people saying that on the right was tremendous. And we kept hearing from the left, oh, you're ageist. You're so rude. Stop making fun of this old man. What you're saying is mean. You're using his age against him, his experience against him. And then what happened overnight when the media flipped on Biden and said, he's too old, everybody on the left acted like they hadn't just gaslit people on the right for years. Oh, yeah, well, he's too old. I mean, we've been knowing that. No, actually, you guys gaslit every conservative for the last 3 years.
Kamala Harris was untalented and a terrible candidate, but she lost less badly than he would have because the American people, 70 million tuned into that debate, they saw that person and said there is no way he can be president for 4 more years.
Yeah.
He would have lost badly, I think.
I just remember going back to this summer and the way this whole thing played out. So there was this debate, then there was rumor about whether Joe Biden would stay in the race. Then George Clooney comes out with the op-ed that was the first knife in the back after just 2 months earlier he told the country at that fundraiser with Obama that Joe Biden's fine. He should be the next president. He's totally fit to continue on this race. You should all give millions of dollars to keep him on the campaign trail against Donald Trump. Biden said, no, I'm staying in. Then you started seeing additional people coming out and saying it's time to go. Nancy Pelosi was circling the wagons. You had Barack Obama doing it. You had Adam Schiff doing it. And as Joe Biden continued to double down and make the single case, show me polling that shows that Kamala Harris is a better candidate than I am against Trump, and I will drop out of the race. They couldn't do it, and eventually the pressure got so high that he resigned from the campaign trail through a letter that was put out on a Sunday afternoon on X. and we didn't hear from him for 24 hours. So there wasn't a lot of explanation about why. After for weeks he was saying, I'm not leaving the race, I can beat Trump, I'm a better candidate. And now the Washington Post is reporting it this way. They're saying, quote, in private, Biden has also said he should have picked someone other than Merrick Garland as his attorney general, complaining about the Justice Department's slowness under Garland in prosecuting Trump and its aggressiveness in prosecuting Biden's son, Hunter. So while all this is going on with him being exposed at the debate for his mental acuity, his son, Hunter, is going to be on trial for a number of felonies. And
So
at this
can't
time,
these
he's
guys
insisting
learn? The
he's
more
not
you
going to pardon
prosecute
him,
Trump,
which
the
of
more
course
you
we all
fired
know
up his
was not
base.
true
So
either.
he's laying his cards on the table as well. The lawfare was designed to affect the electoral hopes of Donald
Right.
Trump. And he's saying, Merrick Garland didn't press the issue enough, or I would have
Soon
won.
enough.
Soon enough, fast enough, hard enough. And if you had Merrick Garland, he has regrets apparently now about Merrick Garland, then I might have won. I mean, you have explained exactly what we all
That's
accused you
wicked.
of for some time. You're using the justice system, weaponizing it in pursuit of a political end.
So if he had put him in prison, federal prison, before the Supreme Court could have come down with the immunity ruling that they did in June, that's Biden's argument, that he would have been able to win this election,
Right.
which is insane.
That's not much of an argument if that's true. You're basically saying, well, if we would have jailed my opponent, I would have won. Well, like, no shit, Sherlock, but that's some like Banana Republic type shit. We don't want to do that. That's not what America is. That's not what we should stand for, is jailing opponents so that we can win. No, you win fair and square, man, by having better policies, better reputation, better ideas.
And
And
he's
anti-American.
reportedly complaining to enough people behind the scenes that this is now leaking out to the Washington Post. His one, aside from getting out of the race, his one biggest regret is having an attorney general who didn't prosecute his opponent fast enough and who did prosecute his criminal son. And he's saying it openly.
Right.
So the
That's his
game
regret.
is sort of
That's
over
his regret.
at this point, right? And so he's dishing out his pardons and grousing on his way out the door. And I think there's a reason why his approval ratings are absolutely in the toilet right now. He has very much earned them.
And what does Joe Biden do when he leaves office on January 20th, right? I mean, the Democratic Party is looking forward to him leaving.
Well, he can finally take a break and go to the beach.
He can finally take a vacation, maybe, but what a legacy there.
If there's anything that Biden should regret coming to the end of his administration, these are not things that should be it. If anything, at the top of that list should be the Afghanistan withdrawal. And the media talked about that for a quick second and then got it out of there, and no one's really brought it up much since. But dude, we had Americans die overseas. We had innocent civilian Afghanis return to a form of government where they're extremely oppressed. I'm not saying that the United States should have stayed in Afghanistan forever, but the way that we pulled out hurt a lot of people needlessly. There's no great way to get out of a country, but there was basically just an overnight, we're leaving guns behind, we're leaving ways for these military forces that are going to come in to be able to use these weapons against us and to oppress their own people. Why did we leave our equipment behind? Right? Why did we let so many Americans die in the Afghanistan withdrawal? That's not one of your regrets? You know, another thing is the inflation under this administration. It's been insane. And part of that was Trump and some of that COVID spending at the end of his administration. But a lot of that is Biden. And continuing under Biden, there was a lot of new government spending, right? We saw during COVID that, if you print money, you create inflation. So then when you have Biden propose the Inflation Reduction Act, or rather push it through, and the Inflation Reduction Act actually prints more money, it makes no sense. And if we actually go in, we can look at how much money was spent with the Inflation Reduction Act. The government spent close to $400 billion on clean energy. They spent more money on clean energy, creating more money, more debt. That's their reputation. That's what they pushed through. They couldn't give a damn about your issues, but they're going to push through more funding, spending more money for green energy. Look, I'm not opposed to green energy, but there's a time and a place. Between 2020 and 2021, M2, a broad measure of the money supply that includes cash, checking, savings, deposit, as well as blah, 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 grew by about $6 trillion from approximately $18.4 trillion in January of 2020 to $24.5 trillion by the end of 2021. We created $6 trillion out of thin air. When you create that much money out of thin air, of course there's going to be inflation that people have to deal with. Again, this administration regrets things like supposedly not coming after Trump harder. It regrets not staying in the race to fight Trump, but it doesn't regret any of the ways that it hurt our troops, that it hurt the American people. Man, and it's bigger than just our people too. There's the whole Israel and Ukraine situation, right? Under this administration, what happened in Ukraine has only gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. There's been no ceasefire. It's just been more Ukrainians, more Russians dying, and the war seems to be going on forever. The U.S. is just happy to fund it because we're screwing over Russia or weakening Russia, I guess. But then that wasn't good enough for this administration. So in the Middle East, they let things boil over with Israel and Hamas. And the United States, I know people say the Middle East is always going to fight. That's what happens. The United States is the biggest global power in the world by a landslide. And the United States has a ton of leverage over Israel, right? Especially financially. If the United States wanted to end that war under this administration, the Biden administration, if they wanted to end Israel and Hamas, it would be as easy as telling Israel, hey, we're going to cut your funding unless you knock this shit off. Go back home. Hamas, we'll drop bombs on you. We will level your country. We will level your land if you continue to do this shit. Or they could even give Israel some extra systems to be able to identify threats coming in, right? But they're not interested in actually stopping this war. The United States loves conflict that they can make money off of, as long as it's not in their backyard, right? And then another thing that's really sad too is the border, man. This administration supposedly has no regrets, seems like, about the border. But with Kamala, the borders are, under the Biden administration, the border's only gotten worse, right? All this talk about how bad it was under Trump, it's been garbage under Biden. And the Democrats haven't done anything to try and fix it. So I don't want to hear it, man. And there's this report that just came out of Fox 2 that now homelessness has grown a significant percent year over year in the United States under this administration.
Homelessness has hit another record high this year, with over 770,000 people experiencing homelessness. That's up 18% from last year. The Department of Housing and Urban Development found that 39% more families with children are now experiencing homelessness. That is a horrible way for these kids to get started in life, and hopefully somebody can get a grip on this and get a handle on it. Bill Wells, thank you so much for your time.
Bro, this is what drives me nuts about this report, is if Biden's biggest regrets are really not fighting Trump and not prosecuting Trump harder, then you clearly do not care about the American people even 1 ounce. And I don't really believe that he does, to be honest with you. Because when you look at this stat, homelessness up 18% in 1 year in the United States of America. Almost 40% of families that have kids are homeless now? That's insane, bro. Let me correct myself. It's almost 40% growth in the amount of families with children that are experiencing homelessness. It's just insane, man. This administration has been garbage. And I put a lot of the blame on Biden. But also, I truly believe that Biden is not all the way home right now. I really don't think that Biden is completely sentient. So I also have to put the blame on the Democratic apparatus around Biden that have been running this country while he's doing who knows what. Because I don't really believe that a lot of these policies have been Biden's. But I have to look at Biden and go, but you fought to be there. And because you fought to be there when you couldn't hold up your end of making America a better place, now families, children are suffering. There's inflation through the roof. The middle class is in a bad spot, man. We like to pretend that, America's still the biggest economy in the world. We're the new Rome. We could never fall. We can fall very quickly, and we're seeing it with these stats. An 18% increase in 1 year is insane. Anyways, my name is Mitchell. God bless you guys. Thank you for watching, man. Drop a comment below. Hit like. I'm out.